Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. Mia grabbed my hand instead of Emma's when the tech walked in. I'm Jake, 32, and that small grip still bothers me now. Emma lay on the table, breathing shallow, the gown tied too tight. Mia stood between us like she had a reserved spot there. I should have moved her hand off mine right then, but I froze. How far along are we today? The tech smiled at Emma, clipboard up. Almost 12 weeks, Mia answered, bright and quick, eyes on me. The tech glanced at her, then at us, trying to place the connection. I saw Emma's jaw tighten for half a second, then the smile returned. Back then I told myself they were just excited, and I swallowed it. I squeezed Emma's ankle, the only part of her I could reach. You okay? I kept my voice low, like we had some privacy. She nodded once and stared at the monitor, already bracing for it. Mia leaned closer, elbows on the edge, like she owned that spot. If you were there, you would have felt how crowded it suddenly got. The gel hit her stomach and Emma flinched, grabbing the paper sheet. Sorry, little cold, the tech said, moving the probe with practiced motions. The screen flickered, static, then shapes started to sharpen into something. Mia's nails dug into my skin as she gasped, way before Emma spoke. I remember thinking she reacted like this was her scan, not ours. There, the tech said, pointing, eyes softening with that practiced warmth. That tiny shape is your baby, and everything looks good so far. Emma let out a breath that sounded like she had been drowning. My chest flooded with something heavy and fierce, bigger than any fear. Mia squeezed my hand harder, whispering, "We did it," like we were a couple. The heartbeat came through the speakers, fast and steady, filling the room. Emma covered her mouth and laughed through a sudden messy sob. I wanted to step closer to her head, wipe her face, say something real. Mia blocked that path without even trying, body angled right in front. So I stood behind them both, listening to my child and feeling sidelined. Dad, you hear that? The tech nodded toward me, friendly and sure. Before I could answer, Mia jumped in again with a bright, "He's stunned." I forced a smile and nodded because fighting felt wrong in that moment. Yeah, I hear it, I managed, voice rougher than I expected it to be. I still hate that I let her keep talking for me while Emma watched. The tech printed a strip of pictures and tore it off with a snap. Do you want an extra copy for family? She asked, already reaching. Mia's hand shot out first, almost knocking mine aside in the motion. One for us and one for the fridge, she said, laughing like it was cute. Emma's eyes flicked to mine, quick and sharp, then dropped back to the screen. I cleared my throat and took the printouts from Mia's fingers, not hers. Give them to Emma, I said, keeping my tone light and almost joking. For a second Mia held on, like she had not heard me at all. Then she let go and smiled, too wide, brushing my knuckles on purpose. Emma slid the photos into her bag without looking, and that hurt more. The tech wrapped up the exam, wiped the gel, and rattled off instructions. No heavy lifting, plenty of water, call if anything felt weird or painful. Mia nodded along with every note like she was responsible for everything. Text me the number, she told the tech, then laughed it off as a joke. The tech laughed back, but her eyes flicked between us, trying to map it. When the door closed behind her, the room finally went quiet and heavy. I stepped to Emma and kissed her forehead, my hand on her shoulder. You did great, I said, and it sounded small for what just happened. Her fingers curled into my wrist and held on like she needed an anchor. For 1 second it was only us and the heartbeat still echoing inside me. Then the door cracked open and Mia poked her head in without knocking. Front desk wants to confirm your contact stuff, she said, too casual. She slipped back in before we answered, phone already in her hand again. I'll handle it, I talk faster, she added, waving her screen like a badge. Emma let go of me, and I felt that space open where her hand had been. In the hallway, Mia walked ahead of us, already talking to the clerk. Put my number as backup, she said, leaning on the counter like staff. I watched the clerk pause, then glance over Mia's shoulder toward Emma. Primary is me, I said, stepping up so he had no doubt who to ask. Mia giggled and bumped my arm like I was overreacting, and maybe I was. We shuffled toward the elevators, Emma moving slower, one hand on her stomach. I tried to walk beside her, close enough to catch her if she wobbled. Mia slid between us at the last moment and hit the button with a flourish. "New dad coming through," she announced, pointing at me like a game show host. A couple in the hallway smiled at us, but Emma stared straight ahead. Inside the elevator, Mia hooked her arm through mine without asking first. "Look how pale he is," she said, leaning her head briefly against my shoulder. "He almost passed out when the heartbeat started, I swear he did." Emma's reflection in the metal door gave the smallest eye roll, almost invisible. If I had really watched her face then, I would have caught much more. "I'm fine," I said, pulling my arm back just a little to make space. Mia's grip loosened, then tightened again as if she had not noticed. "You did amazing, both of you," she said, including herself in that praise. Emma nodded once, then folded her hands over her stomach like a shield. The elevator beeped at our floor, and the moment dropped without resolving. We stepped out into the parking area, and the air hit me like a reset. "Shotgun," Mia called, already jogging toward our car with an easy stride. I looked at Emma, hesitant, waiting for her to claim that seat instead. She shrugged and walked to the back door, one hand on her lower back. I unlocked the car and told myself she just wanted to lie down. Mia buckled in and twisted so she could see Emma in the rear view. "You good back there?" she asked, voice suddenly soft and almost sincere. Emma hummed something that sounded like yes, eyes already closing halfway. "Let's grab something to eat," Mia said, tapping my arm to get moving. I started the engine and wished I had pushed harder in that lot. She grabbed my phone from the console and opened the maps without asking. "I know a place near here that does great sandwiches," she said quickly. Her thumb moved fast, scrolling through our group messages and old pictures. I glanced over and saw her stare linger on a selfie of the three of us. That image felt different now, with my wife resting alone in the back seat. "Give the phone back," I said, trying not to sound harsh or controlling. Mia blinked, then laughed and set it down like it was no big deal. "You're jumpy today," she teased, nudging my elbow in that familiar way. "Big day," I answered, eyes on the road, jaw locked tight around the words. I knew she heard the edge there because the car went quiet for a beat. To fill the silence, she started firing off ideas like fireworks around us. Baby shower themes, weekend visits, matching outfits, pictures every month. "You'll want me in the delivery room, right?" she asked with a bright grin. Emma's eyes opened a little wider in the mirror, and then dropped again. I laughed it off because arguing about future scenes felt insane right then. "Godmother status is pretty much mine already," Mia added, tapping her chest. "We're going to be so wrapped up in this kid, all three of us." She said it like a promise and not a suggestion, like it was already decided. I checked Emma again, waiting for her to joke or push back or anything. She looked out the window instead, her face turned to a place I could not reach. We skipped the food stop when Emma muttered that she just wanted home. "Fine, straight home," I said, rolling past the exit Mia had picked earlier. I could feel her stare burn into the side of my head for a second. "Someone is bossy all of a sudden," she joked, but her voice lost some shine. The rest of the drive turned still and heavy, with only the turn signals talking. When we pulled into the driveway, Emma unbuckled slowly and sat there a moment. "I'm a little dizzy," she said, one hand braced on the seat in front. "I've got you," I told her, already out, circling to open her door. Mia beat me there and offered both hands like she was leading a dance. I watched Emma choose who to hold on to, and that choice stung later. She took one of Mia's hands and one of mine, splitting the difference neatly. We walked her inside like she was made of glass in fear and relief. Emma sank onto the couch as soon as we reached the living room. "I just need a minute," she whispered, closing her eyes, one palm on her stomach. Mia turned to me with a grin that did not match that tired whisper at all. "Okay, we need a plan," she announced, already kicking off her shoes. She started pacing, talking about nursery walls and cribs and weekly check-ins. I stood between her and Emma, unsure which way to turn first for once. Emma lay there, silent, listening, her thumb moving in small circles over her shirt. I told myself this was just excitement and not the start of something worse. The front door swung open without a knock. I was halfway to the handle with a grocery bag in my hand. Mia swept inside like she lived there, phone against her ear. "Yeah, I'm here now," she said, walking past me toward the hallway. Her shoulder brushed mine and she winked, like we were partners in something. Emma, her voice carried straight to the bedroom without a pause. I shut the door and just stared at it for a second longer than normal. You know that weird pause when your brain tries to file a moment as fine. Then it quietly moves it to the wrong folder, the on. Labeled not fine. That was me standing in the entryway, telling myself not to overreact. I followed her and found Emma propped up on the bed, looking drained. Mia sat beside her like she had been invited hours ago. Look what I brought, she announced, lifting takeout bags with a flourish. Emma smiled in that grateful way sick people do when food appears. They both looked at me like I was late to my own life. You okay? I asked Emma, dropping the groceries at the dresser. Nausea hit hard again, she whispered, hand pressed to her side. She threw up twice, Mia added, patting Emma's leg like she owned it. I told her she is not lifting a finger with me around. I stood there, trying to find where I was supposed to fit in that sentence. I called her, Emma said quickly, noticing my face tighten a little. I didn't want you leaving work again for every little thing. Every little thing, that line stung more than it probably should have. Mia glanced between us, reading the temperature like she enjoyed it. If you two start a fight, I'm confiscating your car keys, she joked. We moved to the living room because the food smelled strong for the bedroom. Mia dragged a chair close to the couch and angled it toward me. Hydration first, she said, handing Emma a drink like she ran a clinic. Then carbs, then I bully you into resting while we handle everything. Wheeze, that word kept showing up in her mouth whenever my kid came up. I tried to talk about the doctor's notes from that morning. Short walks were fine, light housework was fine, just nothing extreme. Absolutely not, Mia cut in, shaking her head like she was in charge. She almost fainted earlier, she moves from bed to couch, that's it. Emma did not correct her, which felt like a quiet vote I did not like. Later that night, dishes stacked in the sink, Emma fell asleep on the couch. Her breathing evened out, one hand resting over her stomach. Mia tiptoed around like the place was hers to manage. Go shower or something, I'll watch her, she whispered, waving me away. It sounded generous, but the way she planted herself there felt territorial. I showered fast, nerves buzzing like I had left a burner on. When I came back, the lamp was dimmed and they were watching some show. Emma leaned against a pillow, eyes drooping, cheeks relaxed for once. Mia sat too close to her feet, phone in hand, talking softly about nursery ideas. I stood there unnoticed for a few seconds, like furniture in my own home. I'll head out after this episode, Mia said without looking at me. Emma muttered that she should just crash on the couch if she was tired. My jaw clenched before I even heard myself answer. She has her own place, she can make it there, slipped out of my mouth. Mia finally turned, expression bright but eyes a little harder. Wow, guess I'm not on the approved guest list tonight, she laughed. She stretched her legs, toes almost touching my knee as I sat down. I've been on vomit patrol for hours, you know. Guilt hit fast because she actually had helped while I was out. That is how she did it, always wrapped in something that looked helpful. She left an hour later, but her presence stayed in the room. The throw blanket smelled faintly like her perfume when I settled beside Emma. She means well, Emma murmured, half asleep, leaning into my side. I know, I whispered, even though I was not sure I did anymore. I watched the door she had used and felt my stomach twist for no clear reason. The next evening, the lock turned again while I was chopping vegetables. I hadn't heard a knock, just the sharp click and the door swinging open. Mia marched in with a canvas bag and a confident grin. Surprise prenatal dinner delivery, she announced, kicking the door shut. My hand tightened around the knife before I forced my grip to loosen. How did you get in? The words came out sharper than I intended. She dangled a small silver key between two fingers like a prize. Emma gave me a copy, she said, dropping it into her bag again. So I can check on her if you're stuck somewhere or whatever. The or whatever landed loud in my head, louder than the rest. Emma shuffled out of the hallway, one hand on the doorframe. I forgot to tell you about that, she said, rubbing her temple. I panicked thinking about emergencies, it just made sense. It did make sense if you ignored every boundary word in the book. I forced a slow breath because snapping at a pregnant woman felt wrong. We should at least talk before keys get handed out, I said. My voice tried to stay level, but the edge still showed. Mia watched us with an amused little curve at the corner of her mouth. "Relax, I'm not raiding your safe," she joked, bumping my elbow. I stepped away and opened the fridge just to have something to do. During dinner, Mia monitored every bite Emma took like she had a checklist. "One more forkful, then you can lie down," she ordered. "Gently." Emma rolled her eyes but obeyed, resting her head back afterward. "You two would live on cereal without me," Mia added with a smirk. I wondered when exactly I had been downgraded to background character. After Emma went to bed, I started stacking plates to clean up. Mia leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone lazily. "You're quiet tonight," she observed, watching me over the screen. "Just tired," I replied, rinsing a dish longer than necessary. The air felt charged, like there was a conversation waiting to happen. "Do you resent that I'm here so much?" Her voice dropped lower. I looked over and found her studying my face, not joking for once. "You're here a lot," I answered, which was true and safer than yes. She chewed on her bottom lip, then took a step closer. "I'm just trying to keep her safe," she said, fingers tracing the counter. I should have walked away right then. Instead, I stayed where I was and let the moment stretch. "You're not her second spouse," I finally managed, staring at the sink. "That roll is pretty full already." She laughed, but there was a flash of something sharper under it. That night my phone buzzed near midnight while I lay awake. Emma snored softly beside me, finally comfortable after a rough day. A notification popped up from our group chat with Mia. By the time I unlocked the screen, there was one less message there. The preview line had shifted, like something had been pulled out. I opened the conversation and scrolled up, hunting for the missing piece. There was a gap where her text should have sat between two replies. My gut told me it had been meant for me, not both of us. Another alert landed at the top of the thread before I found it. "Can't sleep, my brain won't shut up," she wrote, 3 dots blinking. I stared at that line way too long. I typed same and erased it, then typed what's up and erased that. In the end, I put the phone face down on the nightstand. My thumb hovered over the screen until the dim light vanished. You ever feel proud of a boundary that is barely a line? The next afternoon, I came home early and walked into a scene. Emma sat on the couch, rubbing her neck, looking worn to the bone. Mia stood over her, voice raised, hand slicing the air for emphasis. "He keeps leaving you alone while you're this vulnerable," she argued. "You need support every hour, not when it fits his schedule." I stopped in the doorway, the words hitting me before they saw me. Emma noticed first and straightened, her eyes darting to mine. "We were just talking about logistics," she said, a little too fast. Mia turned, not even flinching at being caught mid-attack. "Good you're here, maybe we can actually plan something useful." She grabbed a notepad from the coffee table and flipped it open. "I made a chart," she declared, tapping a messy grid of time blocks. "This is when she feels worst, you need to be home during these windows." My jaw clenched while I read the scribbles she had assigned to my life. "You don't manage my hours," I answered, voice low and steady. "I'm managing her health, which you should want too," she fired back. "She nearly passed out earlier and you weren't around again." Emma pressed her palm to her forehead, whispering that it was not that bad. Mia sat down hard, as if that proved her point better than any words. I could feel the ground shifting under all three of us just slightly. After Mia left that evening, the house felt too quiet. I stood at the sink, hands under running water, staring at nothing. Emma leaned in the doorway, watching me with reddened eyes. "She's overprotective, but she cares," she murmured, hugging herself. "She makes me feel like I'm not alone when you're gone." Those last words hit harder than anything Mia had thrown at me. I dried my hands slowly, trying to pick my next sentence with care. "I'm not abandoning you," I said, hearing the defensiveness bleed in. "I'm juggling bills and appointments and whatever else we need." Emma's chin trembled, and I hated that I sounded like I was on trial. "Maybe I shouldn't have given her the key," she whispered, eyes shining. "But when I get dizzy, it scares me, and she actually shows up." I stepped closer, wrapping my arms around her, feeling her shake. In that moment, I hated Mia and needed her at the same time. That mix right there is how people like her get their claws in. We agreed Mia would text before dropping by, at least on weekdays. It sounded reasonable, something balanced, something grown adults would do. I sent Mia a short message about it, keeping the tone polite. She replied with a single thumbs up and a whatever works for you too. I stared at that line, hearing every unsent sentence behind it. Of course, the next time the lock turned, there was no text first. I found her in the kitchen, raiding the fridge, humming under her breath. "Oh, my phone died, I'll plug it in here," she explained. Instead waving a cord. She reached out and tugged my sleeve, pulling me closer than necessary. "You're welcome, by the way, for keeping an eye on your family." That word again. Family. She liked to taste it, roll it around, see how it landed between us. At the time, I told myself it was just bad boundaries and nothing more. Now I look back and realize those nights were her rehearsal for something worse. The cork popped while Emma was already out cold upstairs. I flinched at the sound and checked the hallway like a guilty teenager. She had told me she wanted to lie down after dinner and vanished early. Mia twisted the corkscrew away, grinning like we had just finished a celebration. "Relax, it's one glass, we survived another prenatal week," she said, watching me. "I'm good with water," I answered, lifting my glass from the counter. "You sure?" She tipped the bottle toward my cup anyway, wrist loose. "Come on, you look like you just swallowed a meeting," she added. Before I could block it, red rippled into my drink and climbed halfway. I watched the line rise and knew I should push it away. Seriously, I shouldn't, I tried again, fingers around the glass. She bumped my shoulder with hers and rolled her eyes. "You're not pregnant, one drink won't shatter the universe," she muttered. Her voice had that teasing edge that dares you to argue back. I brought the glass to my mouth and hated that she had a point. We moved to the living room because she insisted the chairs felt stiff. "Sit, breathe, pretend you're not carrying everything on your spine," she said. She folded herself into the corner of the couch, legs tucked under. I took the other end, leaving a stretch of cushion between us. It felt way smaller than it looked when we were both on it. "How is she today?" Mia asked, swirling her drink slowly. "Tired, back pain, some nausea earlier," I answered, taking a small sip. "And you?" Her gaze stayed on the glass, not on my face. I shrugged and said something vague about long hours and unpaid overtime. She hummed like that confirmed a theory she already had about me. "She told me you were worn down," Mia said after a pause. My stomach tightened because that sounded almost comforting. Then she kept going and the mood shifted sideways. "She also cried that she is ruining your life right now," she added. Those words hit my chest harder than the wine ever could. I put the glass down, suddenly done with it. "When did she say that?" slipped out before I could filter. "Yesterday," Mia answered, tracing the rim with one finger. "She worries you regret the timing and maybe even the baby," she went on. I felt a mix of anger and shame rise together like bad smoke. "I never said that," I snapped a little too fast. Mia tilted her head, studying my face like it was a puzzle. "You didn't have to, she reads you like I do," she replied. I let out a short laugh that did not sound like me. "If you read me so well, you know that's not true," I pushed. She shifted closer, closing part of the space between us. "I know you care about her, I'm not questioning that," she said. Her knee brushed my leg and stayed there, light but deliberate. "I'm questioning who takes care of you while you're busy saving everyone," she added. That sentence landed in the part of me that was tired and unguarded. I should have stood up right then and gone upstairs. Instead, I leaned back, feeling the cushions sink under my shoulders. "Honestly, I'm fine," I lied, staring at some random corner of the room. "Stress is just part of this stage, people handle it every day," I added. Even as I spoke, I heard how hollow that sounded out loud. Mia's hand rested on my forearm, light at first. "I watch you come in here wired and worn out," she murmured. "You go straight into caretaker mode and never hit pause," she continued. Her thumb drew a slow line over my skin without breaking eye contact. "I don't know how you haven't cracked wide open yet," she finished. My pulse jumped in my neck and I tried to laugh it off. "You're making me sound more noble than I am," I answered. She smiled at that, like I had just opened a door for her. "See that right there, you always downplay yourself," she said. "Emma doesn't see it, not like I do," slipped out next. That line made my brain stutter. "What do you mean she doesn't see it?" I asked slowly. Mia sat up straighter, knee still against mine, hand unmoving. "She is focused on surviving the day, she misses the man behind it," she replied. Then she shook her head and let out a breath like she was annoyed for me. You hold this entire thing together, she went on, voice low. You fix everything, you drive everywhere, you juggle all the pressure, she listed. Her hand climbed from my forearm to the middle of my chest. I just don't want to watch you burn out because no one noticed, she finished. My heart thudded against her palm, and I knew she could feel it. Okay, that's enough wine talk, I tried to joke, shifting away. She moved with me, keeping the contact like a magnet. You think this is about wine, she whispered, eyes locked on mine. This has been building for months, you just ignored it, she added. Her fingers curled slightly, gripping my shirt like she owned part of it. Panic pitched up inside me, and my words came out clipped. You're crossing a line, I managed, keeping my voice as steady as possible. Her mouth twitched, not quite a smile, not quite anything friendly. I'm naming a truth you're afraid to say out loud, she countered. Do you honestly feel seen in this house? Came next, soft and sharp. I thought of Emma upstairs, exhausted and vulnerable and trusting us both. Guilt slammed into me, hot and immediate, cutting through everything else. I don't want to have this conversation about my marriage with you, I said. Mia leaned in anyway, her face inches from mine, breath warm. Then what are we doing every night when she falls asleep? She whispered. For a second I had no answer. Because she was right about one thing, our nights had shifted. Emma would crash early and Mia would linger, always finding excuses to stay. We talked about schedules and symptoms and money and fear. It felt practical until it clearly wasn't anymore. She moved even closer, her nose almost brushing mine. You feel this too, she murmured, fingertips pressing into my chest. Don't pretend I'm the only one who notices what's between us, she continued. My throat went dry, my brain split between wanting to shove her back and freeze. That is the moment I am most ashamed of, the hesitation right there. I jerked my head away, standing up so fast my leg hit the table. The glasses rattled and one tipped, wine spilling across the surface. Stop, I said louder than I meant, hands clenched at my sides. Mia stared up at me, breathing harder, cheeks flushed from more than alcohol. The room felt way too small for both of us at that point. You're married, I added, even though she obviously knew that. Emma is literally upstairs, pregnant and trusting us, I went on. Every word tasted like acid, but they finally came out. Mia's expression tightened, then smoothed over like she put on a mask. I know what she is, she replied, voice suddenly careful. She is my best friend, she said, emphasizing each word like a defense. I'm not trying to hurt her, I'm trying to stop her from losing you, followed. I barked out a humorless laugh because that logic bent reality. You don't protect someone by going after their husband, I answered. My palms felt sweaty and I wanted a shower just to scrub off the moment. She stood up slowly, closing the distance again but not touching. You think she hasn't already pushed you away? She asked, head tilted. She tells me things she will never tell you because she is scared, she added. Someone has to actually see you in this mess, came after that. Every sentence sounded like concern, wrapped around something darker. I pointed toward the front door, my patience done. You need to leave, I said, the word heavy in my mouth. For a split second, I thought she might argue and make a scene. Instead, she stepped back, eyes glossy like I had slapped her. Fine, if you want to drown alone, that's on you, she muttered. She grabbed her bag and walked toward the hallway. Halfway there she paused, hand on the back of the couch. You're going to remember this when everything falls apart, she tossed over. Don't say I never tried to be in your corner, she finished. Then the door closed with a solid thud that echoed up the stairs. I stayed rooted in place, listening for movement above me. Silence stretched long enough that I started to breathe again. Then floorboards creaked and Emma's voice floated down, groggy and small. Did someone leave just now? She called, confusion wrapping every word. My stomach dropped because I had no clean version of the truth ready. Yeah, Mia headed home, I answered, moving to the bottom of the stairs. How long was she here? Came back, followed by another light creak. A while, we were just talking after you crashed, I replied. Even as I said it, I knew that was the safest slice of the story. Leaving out the dangerous part felt wrong, but telling it felt worse. She shuffled down a few steps, one hand on the rail for balance. Everything okay? She asked, eyes narrowed, searching my face. Just stressed, I said, rubbing the bridge of my nose to avoid her gaze. Mia worries about you, that's all, slipped out before I could stop it. I watched suspicion flicker and then die as fatigue took over. Come upstairs, she murmured, turning back toward the bedroom. I keep waking up and reaching for you and you're not there, she added. That hit me in a place Mia's touch never could reach. I'll be up in a second, I promised, glancing at the mess on the table. Wine streaks looked like evidence I did not want anyone to examine. I wiped everything down, hands moving faster than my mind could follow. With every swipe, I replayed Mia's words in brutal detail. You feel this too. You will remember this when everything falls apart. It all sounded louder in the quiet house than it had in the moment. When I finally crawled into bed, Emma curled into me instinctively. Her hand drifted to my chest, right where Mia's had been earlier. The contrast made my skin crawl and ache at the same time. I'm glad you're here, she whispered, already sinking back into sleep. I stared at the ceiling and wondered how many lines had just been crossed. Now looking back, that night was not just awkward flirting. It was a test, a small rehearsal for a bigger betrayal waiting ahead. I passed. Technically, I did not touch her back or kiss her. But I lied by omission, and I left the door cracked in a different way. People think disaster shows up loud. Mine started with a quiet almost. The first scream came through my phone, not my door. I was in the checkout line when it rang and vibrated hard. Unknown number, local area, my gut still twisted as I answered. All I heard at first was breathing and a high panicked noise. Then Mia's voice tore through the speaker, raw and jagged. She fell down the stairs, there's blood everywhere. Everything in the store went muffled, like someone hit a mute button. Who fell? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Emma, she's not waking up, I'm trying to keep her still, Mia gasped. Something crashed on her end, like the phone hit the floor. Then distant voices shouted instructions I could not make out. Are the paramedics there? I shouted, knuckles white on the cart handle. They're pulling in now, I called as soon as I heard her hit, she sobbed. She was coming down, the railing gave way, she just went flying, she rushed. My vision tunneled down to that one word, railing, like it had teeth. I left the cart where it was and sprinted out without another thought. The drive home blurred except for the speedometer climbing too high. My chest pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. Every red light felt like an enemy that knew my address. I kept imagining my wife at the bottom of those steps, not moving. There is a special kind of fear when you picture a fall like that. An ambulance blocked our driveway when I finally turned the corner. I parked crooked at the curb and ran, keys still in the ignition. 2 medics were already wheeling a stretcher toward the open doors. Emma lay strapped in, neck collar on, eyes barely open. Her hand twitched once toward her stomach, then went slack. I moved to climb in, and a medic lifted a forearm to stop me. We'll get her stable first, meet us at County, his voice clipped. Mia appeared behind the stretcher, mascara streaked, hair shoved back. She slipped, I heard this horrible crash, she wasn't answering, she babbled. Her hands shook so hard the tablet in her grip rattled. I caught Emma's gaze for a split second before they loaded her. She looked dazed, unfocused, like she could not quite place me. I'm right behind you, I yelled up, hoping the words reached her. Her lips moved around something that might have been my name. Then the doors shut and I was staring at my own reflection. Mia grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt as the ambulance pulled away. You need to drive, they won't let both of us ride, she rushed. I stared at her for one useless second, still outside my own body. Tell me exactly what happened, I demanded, pulling my arm free. We do not have time for a story later, I need it now. She called down that she was coming, Mia started, breathing uneven. I was in the kitchen, I heard the step creak like always, she continued. Then this loud slam and a thud and she screamed once, spilled out. She must have grabbed the rail and it snapped, I told you it was loose, she finished. That last line hit me sharper than anything else she said. I tightened that bracket last weekend, I snapped before I could stop. The words flew out because I remembered the wrench in my hand. Mia blinked, then shook her head hard like she rejected that memory. Well, it clearly was not enough because she went down like dead weight, she shot back. Her voice cracked on the last word, and I hated that it hooked my guilt. We split into our cars because there was no time left to argue. On the way to the hospital, I kept hearing that phrase on repeat. I told you it was loose. That is how guilt works. It takes the loudest accusation and loops it. By the time I parked, I half believed her version of everything. Inside the emergency entrance, the air felt sharp and too cold. A nurse at the desk asked for her name and birth date and mine. I stumbled through the answers, hands clenched, mind racing ahead. Trauma Bay 2 doctor is with her now, you cannot go in yet, the nurse said. TH. Words cannot go in tore at something primal in my chest. Mia burst through the doors a minute later, out of breath, jacket half off. She went straight to the desk and leaned on the counter with both elbows. I'm her emergency contact too, I need to be wherever he is, she insisted. The nurse looked between us and then typed something, unimpressed. Please take a seat, we will update you together, she answered. We sat side by side in plastic chairs that might as well have been spikes. Mia kept bouncing one knee, shoe tapping out an erratic rhythm. You should have fixed that rail when I pointed it out, she muttered. It was quiet, aimed more at her lap than my face, but I heard every syllable. I gripped the edge of my seat to keep from snapping back. Now is not the time, I said, staring at the double doors. When she is safe, then you can unload on me all you want, I added. It came out harsher than I planned, my throat tight around the words. Mia exhaled sharply and folded her arms like she was hugging herself. For what it's worth, I tried to catch her, she whispered. That line stuck in my head in a weird way. I pictured her just behind Emma on the stairs, reaching too late. I also remembered the call opening with her across the house. Kitchen crash, then running toward the sound, that was the first version. Those two pictures did not fit together cleanly even then. A doctor finally stepped into the waiting area, pulling off gloves. Family for Emma, he called, scanning the room for recognition. Both of us stood at once, almost colliding in our rush toward him. He clocked the movement and gave a small professional smile. Spouse, I managed, lifting a hand, needing that word out there. He nodded once in my direction, then gave the update quickly. There is a mild concussion and some bruising along the spine, he explained. She did not lose awareness for very long, which is encouraging, he added. We are monitoring the baby, heartbeat is present and consistent, came next. My legs nearly gave out at that last part, and I grabbed the counter. Beside me, Mia let out a shuddering breath and covered her mouth. Can we see her? I asked, voice unsteady but still working. One at a time right now, we need to keep stimulation limited, the doctor replied. He looked between us like he knew he was about to start something. Spouse first, then one visitor if she feels up to it, he finished. For once, Mia did not argue the order. She just backed up a step and gestured for me to go. Tell her I'm here, tell her she scared me to death, she whispered. I nodded, already moving, shoes scuffing against the floor too loud. Inside, every noise sounded like bad news waiting to form words. They had her propped slightly, hair tangled, an ugly bruise forming near her temple. Monitors tracked everything in steady blips and soft mechanical hums. Her eyes shifted toward me before I even reached the bed. You came fast, she rasped, trying a small smile that did not hold. I swallowed the urge to say of course, like it was obvious. What do you remember? I asked, voice low, fingers brushing her wrist. She winced a little as she turned her head on the thin pillow. I was heading down, I think I missed a step, then nothing, she whispered. There was a loud snap in my head like a door slamming, she added. Her gaze flicked to the ceiling, searching for something that was not there. You did not feel the railing break, I pressed, heart climbing again. She frowned faintly, like the question did not match her memory. I did not touch the rail, I had one hand on the wall, she answered. Why did something break? She asked, anxiety spiking in her voice. I forced my face neutral and shook my head. Paramedics mentioned loose hardware, I just wanted to check, I lied. I knew I was doing it and I still did it anyway. Her breathing sped up a little, monitors reflecting the jump in numbers. You are both okay, that is what matters, I added quickly. The guilt of smoothing over reality started nibbling right there. A nurse stepped in and reminded me about the visitor limit. We need to let her rest 5 more minutes, she said gently. Emma squeezed my hand, her grip weaker than normal but still there. Let Mia come in after you, she sounded terrified on the phone, she murmured. The irony of that request twisted something deep in my chest. I kissed her knuckles and backed away from the bed. At the door, I glanced once more to make sure she was still breathing even. Mia waited in the hall, leaning against the wall, eyes red and puffy. "She looks beat up but stable," I said, trying to sound solid. "Your turn, but keep it calm, she needs quiet," I added. Mia nodded and brushed past, shoulders squared like she was walking on stage. The door closed behind her, and I stayed at the small hallway window. Through the glass, I watched her grab Emma's hand and bow her head. Her mouth moved fast, too fast for the calm visit I had requested. Emma squeezed back and smiled weakly, which somehow bothered me more. When she came out, Mia's expression had shifted from wrecked to steely. "She's blaming herself for being clumsy, of course," she muttered. "She kept apologizing for falling, like any of this is her fault," she continued. "You need to stop acting like the staircase just attacked her alone," she finished. Every word dug into the piece of me that already believed I had failed. "The house is my responsibility, I get that," I answered, jaw tight. "I will check every bolt when we get back, nothing stays loose again," I added. My voice sounded like I was issuing promises to a judge. Mia softened her tone then, which almost made it worse. "I know you did not mean for this, but intention does not prevent damage," she said. We spent the next couple hours in that stale waiting area. Doctors drifted in and out, nurses adjusted charts, time crawled with no mercy. At some point, Mia turned to me with a new angle. "If I had not convinced her to rest downstairs today, she would be fine," she whispered. There it was, her first slice of self-blame wrapped in a neat package. I shook my head, exhausted and raw. "You cannot pin this on yourself, it was an accident," I told her. As the word accident left my mouth, something in me flinched. I kept hearing Emma's version of events in my head, simple and clean. Missed a step, hand on the wall, then darkness, nothing about rails snapping. Later, a nurse brought out a plastic bag with Emma's things inside. Inside were her ring, her phone, and a stretchy top cut open down the front. I thumbed through absent-mindedly until one detail snagged my attention. Her phone screen showed the last outgoing call made before the fall. The timestamp sat only a minute before Mia had phoned me. The number dialed was not emergency services or mine. It was Mia's contact right there at the top, still highlighted. My stomach lurched as I stared at that tiny glaring fact. "She called you first," I said out loud without meaning to. Mia's head snapped toward me, eyes sharp, face suddenly blank. "What?" she asked, voice too casual for the moment. I turned the phone so she could see the log herself. "She dialed you before she hit the bottom or right after," I pointed out. "And you told me you were in the kitchen and only heard a crash," I added. The space between our two versions of reality widened another inch. Mia's mouth opened and closed once before she answered. "She must have called while she was still upstairs, I did not hear it," she replied. "I was already walking toward the hallway, I just did not realize," she went on. "That whole minute is a blur, I only remember the sound of her landing," she finished. Her explanation came fast, smoother than I expected for a supposed blur. I am not saying that line proved anything on its own. You can lose a minute in a crisis, your brain scrambles timelines. But the way she adjusted the story so quickly left a trace. I tucked that unease away because I had bigger fears in front of me. Still, that small inconsistency kept scratching the back of my mind. By the time they moved Emma to a regular room, the sky had gone dark. A nurse told us one of us could stay overnight if needed. I did not even wait for Mia to respond, the word "me" jumped out. Mia forced a tight smile and lifted her hands in mock surrender. "I will go home, shower, regroup, come back fresh tomorrow," she said. She stepped close and put a hand on my shoulder for a moment. "Do not beat yourself up all night, she needs you sharp," she murmured. Her fingers squeezed once, almost affectionate, almost controlling. "You heard the doctor, one wrong step, that is all it took," she added. I nodded, but my mind went straight back to that call log. After she left, I sat beside Emma's bed and watched her breathe. Every rise of her chest felt like a small miracle and a warning. She woke briefly in the middle of the night and squeezed my hand. "Please fix the stairs," she whispered, eyes glassy, voice hoarse. Then she drifted off again, leaving that request hanging between us. I promised her I would repair everything when we got home. Not just wood and screws, not just whatever had come loose. At that point, I still believed the worst thing in our house was a faulty railing. I did not realize yet that the real danger had a spare key and my number. The staircase was only the first place something gave way. I opened the front door with one hand and the camera app with the other. Emma shuffled past me slowly, discharge papers crumpled in her fist. "Just the couch," she murmured, not looking at the stairs at all. I guided her there, helped her sit, tucked a pillow behind her back. "Text me if you need anything, I'll be right here," I told her, already lying. The second she closed her eyes, I walked to the base of the staircase. The bay racket looked solid, screws flush, no fresh cracks I could see. I pressed my weight on the rail, pushed, pulled, waited for a wobble. Nothing moved, not even a creak, not even a whisper. My brain filed that away in the folder labeled "something is off." I pulled out my phone again and opened the security app. The camera above the entry recorded a steady stream every day. If the rail had failed, maybe I would catch it tilting or tearing. I scrubbed backward through the day, watching the timeline scroll. When I reached the afternoon, the bar jumped forward on its own. At the exact window she fell, there was nothing, just a blank gap. One moment showed the empty hallway, the next showed medics inside. I dragged the marker back 3 times, thinking I had mistapped. The same jump hit every time, like someone had sliced the feed. A 30-minute hole sat right where the impact should live. I told myself it was a glitch, those happen, tech fails all the time. I closed the app, reopened, logged out, logged in again. Same void, same missing chunk, same sudden arrival of first responders. A faint buzzing started behind my eyes that would not settle. If this was a malfunction, it sure had great aim. "Everything okay?" Emma's voice drifted from the couch, thin and worn. I turned, forcing my face into something calm and familiar. "Just checking the thermostat, making sure it is not too warm," I answered. She nodded once and shifted, hand covering the curve of her belly. I could not tell if she believed me or just had no energy to dig. I sat beside her for a while, watched another mindless show play out. She leaned on my shoulder, breathing, evening out, finally relaxing. The camera app burned in my pocket like a secret I did not want. I kept glancing toward the stairs, waiting for them to confess something. They stayed quiet, steady, almost smug. Mia texted a photo of flowers in the evening, already on the way. "Left these at the nurse's station, hope she likes them," she wrote. "Thank you for letting me stay earlier, I know tensions were high," followed. I stared at the screen, hearing that earlier jab about the rail again. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard, then dropped the phone face down. After dinner, Emma fell asleep mid-sentence on the couch. Her head tipped sideways and her lips parted a little. I lifted her tablet from under her arm before it slid to the floor. The screen lit up on a chat app, Mia's name at the top. A half-written message blinked at the bottom, waiting. I should have locked it and set it aside, I know that. Instead, I sat there like a thief and scrolled up a few lines. "Mia, you can't rely on him when it really counts, I keep proving that. Emma, he is trying, he is just stretched thin, please stop." The mix of defense and doubt in that line punched through my chest. Higher up, more messages spun a different story than my life. "Mia, he left you alone again while you were dizzy, I found you shaking. Mia, I am seriously worried he will freeze in a real emergency." Emma's replies grew shorter as I climbed, just little denials and emojis. My pulse climbed with every line where I was the villain in their heads. The worst one sat in the middle of a paragraph from the week before. "Mia, you told me he almost snapped at you near the stairs, that is not okay." I knew exactly which night she meant and what actually happened. We argued over that stupid key, and then I walked out to cool down. I never raised a hand, I never even touched the rail. I scrolled faster, lids stinging, knowing I was doing damage anyway. Some of the texts ended mid-thought, broken off by a blank spot. Message deleted, little gray notices stacked in a row. They sat right after a line where Mia mentioned talking to me alone. Like she had cleaned up any trace that did not match her version. Near the top, a bubble sat in a different color, not fully sent. Emma had started typing and never hit send, you could see it frozen there. "To be honest, I think you lied about what he said that night," it began. "My memory does not match yours and I am starting to worry," continued. The sentence stopped mid-word, like someone yanked the cord on her courage. My throat went dry as I read that line 3 more times. Emma was not a confrontational person, she avoided direct conflict. For her to even draft those words meant something cracked that day. I backed out of the chat, fighting the urge to keep digging deeper. I already felt like I had stuck my hand into a running fan. A new notification slid across the top of the screen. Same app, same name, new message coming in live. Mia, how is she? Has he even apologized for the stairs thing? My finger hovered over reply before I caught myself. This was not my device, not my conversation, at least not officially. I locked the tablet and set it back by Emma's hand. Then I picked up my own phone and opened my thread with Mia. Her last message to me was from the hospital, a quick "you holding up." Nothing before that looked flirty or dangerous on my side. But I knew how things looked if she cropped them right. Out of nowhere, I remembered the call log from the hospital bag. The outgoing call to Mia right before the time of the fall. If she built her story on being in the kitchen, something was off. I pulled up my own call history and lined up the times in my head. There was a gap between her call from the house and the ambulance report. An almost hour-long window sat there, empty and unexplained. Too long for a blur, too long for simple panic in dialing. I opened the camera app again and checked earlier footage that day. Mia had arrived much sooner than she told the paramedics. Her car sat in the driveway, locked down on video, 40 minutes before 911. So she was already inside the house during that missing slice. The camera cut out only after her arrival, then came back with medics. My palms prickled, vision sharpening in a way I did not like. Tech glitches do not usually wait for the perfect dramatic moment. They do not usually protect one person and incriminate another. My brain threw up every alternate explanation to calm me down. Faulty router, corrupted clip, power flicker, anything but intention. I even walked around the entry, checking cords and outlets. Everything sat exactly where I had left it the week before the accident. No unplugged cables, no loose plugs, just that same stubborn blank. "Why are you pacing?" Emma's voice floated from the couch, rough and sleepy. I forced my shoulders to relax before I faced her. "Thinking about installing another safety rail on the other side," I answered. "I keep replaying your fall, I want to overbuild everything now," I added. She watched me for a long moment, like she could see more than I said. "You are not a bad husband because of one stair," she murmured. "I know you keep blaming yourself, I can feel it from here," she continued. Her hand reached out, fingers curling toward mine like a lifeline. I sat down and took it because I needed that anchor more than air. I could not tell her I was starting to blame someone else too. She drifted off again after a while, breathing deeper, face softer. I sat in the blue glow of the muted TV, phone heavy in my grip. Part of me wanted to call Mia and blow everything up right then. Another part knew Emma was too fragile for that kind of war tonight. So I opened Mia's contact and settled for one neutral question. "Can you walk me through today again?" I texted, keeping it simple. 3 dots blinked almost instantly, she was already on the edge. "Why do the doctors need something for the report?" she replied. I stared at that line, noticing the deflection baked into it. "They were asking about timing, I want to be accurate," I wrote back. Her answer arrived in a burst, fast and polished like a speech. "You know what I told them? Emma called me, I drove over, she fell," she wrote. "I heard the crash while I was heading toward the stairs," she added. No mention of the earlier arrival, no mention of the first call from her side. No mention of the hour that existed only in my app and her silence. I scrolled back to her hospital story in my memory. Kitchen creak slam, that was the version she gave with tears. Now it was hallway, heading toward her, barely time for anything. The scene kept shifting, like she was editing it live with each telling. Meanwhile, the camera feed stayed stubbornly the same, blank and cold. The worst part is I still did not confront her. I stared at my screen, thumb hovering over the call button. Then I pictured Emma upstairs, hooked to monitors, begging us not to fight. I pictured her unsent message, where she had almost accused Mia of lying. If I jumped too soon and messed this up, I risked looking insane. Instead of calling, I took screenshots of everything. The missing segment on the camera timeline. The call log from Emma's phone with the highlight on Mia's name. The unsent draft where my wife questioned her friend's story. I saved copies to a cloud folder with a password only I knew. It felt paranoid, like something you do when you have been online too much. But I could not shake the sense that proof mattered now. Because if something else went wrong, it would be my word against hers. And she had been writing my role in this story in private for weeks. I needed my own record, even if I never wanted to open it again. That night I barely slept, lying awake beside Emma listening for any shift. Every time she moved, I jolted, heart racing, ready to catch her. At around 3, her hand slid over my chest and rested there. "I know you think I'm fragile now," she whispered, voice thick with sleep. "You do not have to save me every second, just do not leave." Those words gutted me because that was exactly what I was planning. Not leaving her, leaving my own Denny. About what was happening. I knew I could not keep treating this like bad luck and loose screws. Someone close to us was feeding on our fear and shaping it. I just did not know yet how far she had already gone. Her contraction hit just as my phone lit up with Mia's name. Emma bent over the edge of the bed and grabbed my arm. "Okay, this one hurts, this one is different," she gasped. My screen kept buzzing against the dresser, call after call. I silenced it and reached for the hospital bag instead. "Time them," she panted, already trying to breathe through the next wave. I opened the contraction app with clumsy fingers and hit start. Her whole body shook while she counted out loud, eyes squeezed shut. Seeing her like that made every theory about Mia drop to the floor. Nothing mattered in that second except getting them both there. By the third contraction, they were close enough to stop pretending. "We are going now," I said, slipping shoes on her feet. She nodded, jaw clenched, one hand locking around my wrist. Between surges, she moved like an old injury had come back. During them, she almost crushed my fingers, which I weirdly welcomed. We were halfway to the door when the bell rang hard. I froze for half a heartbeat, then yanked it open. Mia stood there with a tote and a wild smile. "Labor squad reporting for duty, I brought snacks," she announced. Another contraction slammed through Emma before I could answer. Emma folded against the wall, one hand braced, breathing quick. I stepped between them on instinct, palm flat toward Mia. "Hospital now, no time," I snapped, grabbing the keys. "I'll drive," Mia shot back, already reaching for my set. "Absolutely not," I fired louder than planned. Her eyes flashed, then narrowed as she adjusted her tone. "Fine, I ride with you, she will want me there," she said. From behind me, Emma groaned through another count to 10. "I need both of you, I do not care who drives," she gasped. Hearing that, I hated and understood her at the same time. We got her into the car, seat pushed back as far as possible. I slid behind the wheel, hands shaking just enough to scare me. Mia climbed into the back beside Emma like it was pre-assigned. "Breathe with me, in out, we practiced this," she coached. I gripped the steering wheel and tried not to crash anything. On the way, Mia kept reaching forward to smack my shoulder. "Left lane, they said not to wait too long, move," she urged. I already drove like the road was on fire. Every time Emma cried out, my foot pressed harder on the gas. You cannot outrun fear, but I still tried. At the entrance, a nurse rushed out with a wheelchair. Emma slumped into it, sweat on her upper lip, fingers trembling. Mia stuck close on one side, I took the other. "Who is her support person for delivery?" the nurse asked. "Her husband," I answered before Mia could inhale. Mia's mouth opened, then snapped shut, eyes going sharp. "We have been doing this pregnancy together," she argued. "She needs both of us, we are her team," she insisted. The nurse gave her the kind of tired look only hospital staff have. "One person in the room at a time until we say otherwise," she replied. Emma reached out blindly and grabbed my sleeve. "I want him in there first," she whispered, voice shaky. Mia's face went tight around the edges, bright smile gone. "I will be right outside, you know I will," she told Emma. Her eyes cut toward me like I had stolen something. They wheeled Emma through double doors and shoved forms at me. I scribbled signatures while listening to her moan down the hall. Someone slapped a hospital bracelet around my wrist. "Partner, stay close, she's moving fast," a nurse said. My heart dropped and then found a new speed. In the delivery room, everything blurred into commands and counts. "Hold her leg, talk to her, keep her here," someone told me. Emma crushed my hand and cursed me and sobbed apologies. I wiped her forehead and kept saying she was doing great. I did not know if she heard any of it through the pain. At one point between pushes, she locked eyes with me. "If something goes wrong, keep the baby safe," she whispered. I felt the floor tilt under me when she said that. "You both walk out, that is the deal," I answered. I meant it like a threat to the universe. The final stretch felt like a war in slow motion. Her body arched, the room filled with sharp instructions. "Last one right here, give me everything," the doctor barked. Emma screamed, guttural and raw, and then everything shifted. A new cry cut through the noise and snapped the air. I looked down and saw this tiny, furious, perfect person. They lifted her for half a second, then checked and wrapped her. "Healthy girl, lungs are working, you can relax," someone announced. My knees actually buckled, and I almost sat on the floor. I laughed and cried at the same time like an idiot. They settled our daughter on Emma's chi. And a minute later, Emma's face broke into something I had never seen before. "Hi, I am so sorry for the stairs," she whispered to her. That sentence drove a spike straight through my relief. I knew I could not let that lie sit anymore. Once things calmed, the room emptied down to essentials. A nurse adjusted monitors, then glanced at me. "Recovery room soon, you can have 1 or 2 visitors," she said. She left before I decided what to do with that offer. The door clicked shut and the quiet felt heavy. Emma lay back, skin pale, eyes glassy but present. Our daughter made soft noises against her, fists flexing. "You did good," I said, voice still busted from crying. She looked at me, searching my face like she used to. "Are we okay?" she asked, and she did not mean medically. I pulled the chair closer and sat hard. "There is something I have to show you," I answered. Her fingers tensed around the blanket, already bracing. "If this is about money, I cannot handle it right now," she muttered. "This is about the fall," I said, and watched her whole body stiffen. I unlocked my phone and opened the folder I had hidden. First, I pulled up the screenshot of the camera log. "See this gap on the hallway feed, time of the accident," I pointed. "System marks it as stopped by a user, not a glitch," I added. Her mouth parted like she forgot how to close it. Next, I showed her the call times from her old phone. "You called Mia before anything else that day," I said. "She arrived way earlier than she told the medics," I went on. "Then the recording stopped while only she was inside with you," I finished. I watched those facts land like punches she did not deserve. Emma blinked fast, eyes shining, throat working around questions. "Why did you not tell me sooner?" she whispered, barely audible. "Pregnancy, concussion, I wanted proof, I was scared of being wrong," I answered. It sounded weak and real at the same time. I wished I had a cleaner reason than that. I swiped to the screenshots of the messages I had saved. "Some of this you wrote, some she did," I warned. I showed her the draft where she had started accusing Mia of twisting things. Her own words stared back at her from my screen. Her hand flew to her mouth and stayed there. "I remember typing that," she rasped. "I thought I had dreamed it or deleted it," she added. She told me I imagined entire conversations, that it was hormones, she breathed. Hearing that made something in me finally snap for real. I had blamed stress, she had blamed herself, Mia had blamed me. A knock landed on the door before either of us spoke again. A nurse poked her head in, holding a clipboard. "There is a visitor asking for you, Mia, says she is family," she said. Emma closed her eyes for a second like she might pass out. "Let her in," she said finally, voice flat, fingers gripping the rail. My instinct screamed to say no, to throw the latch. But this was Emma's call, Emma's room, Emma's war. "I stay here," I told the nurse, and she nodded. I slid my phone onto the tray where Emma could still see it. The folder of proof sat open like a silent extra witness. Mia entered with a bouquet and a rehearsed smile. "Look at you two, you survived, I knew you would," she gushed. She moved toward the bed with her arms already spreading. Emma shifted our daughter higher on her chest and turned slightly away. That small angle told me everything about where this was headed. "I am so proud of you," Mia went on, clutching the flowers. "I was praying nothing else went wrong after that fall," she added. Her voice shook on the word fall, like she was starring in her own movie. Emma looked at her, really looked like the first time in months. "Where exactly were you when I went down the stairs?" she asked. The question dropped into the room like a heavy object. Mia blinked, thrown by the absence of small talk. "In the kitchen, you know this, I heard the crash," she answered. Her gaze flicked briefly to me, then back to Emma. She had no idea the ground had already shifted. That is not what you told the doctor after, Emma replied. And it does not match the logs he just showed me, she added. She tapped the phone on the tray without breaking eye contact. You turned off the hallway camera during that half hour, she continued. Saying it out loud made the air thick. Mia's grip tightened on the bouquet until petals bent. Seriously, you two dug through your gadgets while I worried, she snapped. Those systems mess up all the time, you know that, she threw out. She laughed once, short and sharp, like the whole thing was absurd. Behind the laugh, her eyes had gone flat. You also told me he screamed at me on the landing, Emma said. That he scared me so much I almost missed a step, she went on. I kept apologizing to you for making you witness that, she added. Her voice trembled, but the words came steady. Show me when that happened, Mia sh. I'll mean your memory. Mia's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. She set the flowers down so slowly it looked like stalling. You were sobbing when I found you, you kept saying his name, she said. You told me he grabbed you earlier and made you feel unsafe, she insisted. I had to dig my nails into my own leg to stay quiet. I never said that, Emma replied, louder than before. I remember missing a step and hitting my head, nothing else, she continued. I remember you telling me later that I was blocking out what he did, she added. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but her stare stayed sharp. You made me doubt my own memory for weeks. I could not stay silent anymore, not fully. I was at the store when she fell, I have receipts and timestamps, I said. You built some story where I hurt her and then left, I went on. I have watched you rewrite our life while pretending to protect it, I added. My voice shook, but it did not break. Mia threw her hands up, a bitter laugh scraping out. Of course he has you reading his screenshots on delivery day, she sneered. You just had a baby and he is turning you against the only one who showed up, she argued. She pointed at me like I was the problem in the room. I have been the one holding this together while he ran from it. Emma winced at the volume and looked at the door. Keep your voice down or I call the nurse, she said. Her hand tightened protectively over our daughter's back. You told him he was dangerous and unreliable in my messages, she added. Then you deleted the worst parts before I could reread them. That last detail made Mia pale for half a second. You were spiraling, I cleaned up things that would hurt you, she argued. I only deleted messages where you were too harsh, that is all, she claimed. You should be thanking me for shielding your marriage, she finished. The word shielding made something in me actually laugh. Emma did not laugh. She stared at her friend like a stranger who had wandered in. You almost made me walk away from him in my head, she said. You pushed this idea that he would fail me when it counted, she continued. Today, when everything got real, who did I reach for, she asked. Silence answered that one before anyone else did. Mia's eyes bounced from Emma to the baby to me. I was there too, I rode in the back, I coached, she snapped. You should not throw away 20 years because he is insecure, she warned. Her voice had shifted from pleading to threatening without a break. Emma let out a rough breath and nodded once. You are right about one thing, she said slowly. I should not throw away 20 years lightly, she added. She adjusted our daughter, then looked up, face set. That is why it kills me that this is the last time you see her. The words hit harder than any shout could. Mia actually stepped back like she had been shoved. Excuse me, she whispered, eyes finally watering for real. You are choosing him over me again, even after everything, she said. Her voice cracked on again, but there was more rage than pain. I am choosing the person who did not lie about my injury, Emma answered. I am choosing the parent who will not rewrite our history, she went on. I am choosing the only person in this room who did not touch that camera, she finished. Her shoulders shook, but she held her ground. Leave Mia and do not come back. Mia stared at her, mouth open, chest heaving. You are hormonal, you will regret this, he is turning you, she ranted. She took a step toward the bed and our daughter whimpered. Emma flinched and reached for the call button. I moved between them before she even pressed it. Do not take one more step at my wife, I said quietly. No more late-night visits, no more spare keys, we are done, I added. My body blocked her view of the baby without thinking. Part of me still expected to feel guilty for that. Instead, I felt relief, sharp and clean. A nurse opened the door, drawn by the raised voices. Everything all right in here, she asked, eyes scanning faces. Emma wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. I need her to leave now and not be listed as family, she said. You could hear the decision in every syllable. Mia looked between the three of us like she might shout again. Then she grabbed her bag with jerky movements. You will call me when reality hits, I will be here, she muttered. It sounded more like a curse than a promise. The nurse held the door while she marched out. The moment the door shut, the room changed temperature. I realized I had been holding my breath and finally let it go. Emma sagged back against the pillows, eyes closed. Her hand still trembled on our daughter's tiny shoulder. I cannot believe I let her near us after the stairs, she whispered. You trusted your friend, that is not a crime, I answered. I should have told you sooner what she pulled on me, I added. My throat tightened around the next part, but I made myself say it. She came onto me that night you were asleep, I froze, I continued. I pushed her away, but I kept the almost to myself. Emma's eyes opened and locked on mine. For a second I thought she might throw me out too. You let her rewrite us and then you helped by staying quiet, she said. She was not wrong, and it burned to hear it out loud. I nodded because there was nothing else to do. I am angry at you, she went on, voice raw. I am furious at her, she added, glancing toward the door. I will probably replay all of this in my head for years, she said. Her eyes dropped to the sleeping baby between us. But I watched who showed up when it counted. She shifted our daughter so there was space on the bed. Get up here, she murmured, patting the empty spot. You are not staying out there like a guest in your own story, she added. I climbed carefully onto the edge, terrified of bumping anything. Our daughter made a small sound and then settled again. Emma rested her head on my shoulder, exhausted but awake. We get therapy, we get cameras checked, we get locks changed, she said. We do not let anyone else narrate our lives for us, she added. Her fingers threaded through mine and held on. I felt like I had been given one last shot. Now when I replay that hospital room, I still wince. Not because we cut Mia out, that part I stand by. Because it took a concussion, a baby, and proof in a folder. All just to admit that something had been wrong for a long time. So when someone tries to step into our marriage now, the door stays closed.